ListenLayer allows us to write rules that push custom values into the data layer. We can use these custom values to then power or augment our website tracking. In the Acuity or Squarespace scheduling listener, once we turn on the custom data layer values feature, this new screen and menu will appear on the left-hand side. In this case, I'd like to actually filter out scheduled appointments from my conversion tracking if they are tests. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first navigate to my custom data layer variables under global settings. And I'm going to make sure that I have a variable called test conversion. Now you can create whatever variable you'd like, but in this case, I'm going to be using this test conversion variable. If that doesn't exist, we can just always add a new one and save it. This variable then becomes available to write custom rules for across all of my listeners. So once that's done, we'll jump back to custom values and we'll create a new rule for our Acuity listener. And this is going to be a pretty simple rule. You can dig in deeper into lookup rules, which are extremely powerful. But in this case, all we're going to do is identify test Acuity appointments. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to look at the email address, which is used inside of a scheduled event. If that email address contains the word test, then we're just going to push a specific value into our appointment custom values so that we can then identify those and exclude them from our conversion tracking using a simple rule inside of Google Tag Manager. So we do need to be able to identify this variable, this email variable. And that lives underneath appointment field values and appointment automatic values. One thing you can do is you can use the console and find the object that's been written there that's also been pushed into the data layer. And we can go into our appointment fields and we can copy the property path name for that variable. So that is one easy way to find the variable that we're looking for. You can also find all variables that the listener identifies and sees on your website inside the variable settings screen of the listener. So in this case, if we drill into the appointment field values, we can see email is here, and we can also find the path of that here. Now, this path is pretty long, so it can be hard to find inside of the interface, so you can assign a friendly name to it. Now, this does not change the name of the variable or the path to the variable in the data layer. It just allows it to be found more easily inside of ListenLayer. In this case, we've already copied our property path from our console, and so I can paste it in here and I'll see my autocomplete here has found this variable. And so if this contains the word test, we want to do something. What we want to do is we want to maybe identify that this is a test conversion. And we could also, if we wanted to, identify this as a test user. That might be useful if you have multiple test identifiers across your data layers. You can also set this value, and then you could actually store that in a local session key or in a local storage key or in a session key or even in a cookie. In addition to being able to push text values into these variables, we can also insert the value from other variables in the data layer directly. So let's go ahead and save this rule. And we're going to publish our changes. And the changes should be available relatively quickly. I like to do a hard refresh just to make sure I'm getting the latest version of everything. And if you're ever curious about which features are turned on for your account in your current session, you can see those here in the console as well. In this case, let's go ahead and select an event. And we're going to complete our booking. And we do have a test email being used. And we'll see down here that we have an event which is written to the console. You can immediately see that inside the custom values node here, we have the values that we wrote rules for inside of ListenLayer. An easier way to see this might be to use the debug view in Tag Manager. And again, you can see we have custom values appearing now inside of that data layer event.